Hi, I'm Don Mitchell. Welcome back to Disciple, a book that shows you how to be a great leader of any for profit or nonprofit organization in adding a vast increase in customers or beneficiaries, enormously reducing costs of serving each one, and eliminating essentially all the need to make new investment. Today we'll be continuing with looking at ways to reduce costs by at least 96% for all those who are affected. Our topic today is from lesson 24, Chain Reaction 2000% Solutions. So as always, I'm going to begin by quoting from the Bible, in this case the book of Isaiah, book 5, verses 26 through 28 in the New King James Version. He will lift up a banner to the nations from afar, and will whistle to them from the end of the earth. Surely they will come with speed, swiftly. No one will be weary or stumble among them. No one will slumber or sleep, nor will the belt on their loins be loosed, nor the strap of their sandals be broken, whose arrows are sharp, and all their bows bent. Their horses' hoofs will seem like flint, and the wheels like a whirlwind. This lesson describes a new concept for creating and implementing 96% cost reduction, something I call chain reaction exponential solutions. This is a subject I'm very excited about, and I hope you'll share my enthusiasm for and interest in this process by the time you finish hearing about this lesson. When I was a youngster, controlled atomic chain reactions were being developed as a source of electricity. To help children understand the difference between atomic blast, which is an uncontrolled atomic chain reaction, and atomic power plant, which is a controlled atomic chain reaction, scientists designed some impressive demonstrations. One of my favorite demonstrations of an uncontrolled atomic chain reaction was conducted in a huge room filled with spring-loaded mouse traps that were each topped with two table tennis balls. The narrator would start the demonstration by tossing a single tennis ball onto the room, and within a second the air would be so filled with flying table tennis balls that you couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. Within just a few more seconds, the energy in the traps would be expended and quiet would soon return. To me, that demonstration was very powerful because it showed that you could move from no motion to universal motion almost instantly. Although I had no interest in setting off uncontrolled atomic chain reactions, I was impressed by the potential to stir actions that could create immediate multiplied effects. Since then, I've always wondered how such effects might be encouraged for people. I began to see examples early in life. If someone stood up at the top of a stadium, perhaps one or two people in the vicinity would also stand up, but no other action would usually follow. If by standing up, the person at top could reach a ventilation duct that created a loud noise when struck by hand, that person could induce a much larger reaction by starting rhythmic drumming on the duct and shouting a familiar chant. Following such a beginning, the whole stadium would soon be clapping and chanting to the beat. Occasionally, I played this role of starting the drumming and chanting just to help me understand the cause and effect. I observed a similar phenomenon a few years later. If a person stood up in the front row of a stadium or auditorium in a way that blocked the view for the people behind the standing person, most of the people who couldn't see easily would stand up immediately rather than ask the first person to sit down. Each time one person stood up in front, 4 to 10 people behind that person would also stand. Each of these standers in turn led another multiple 4 to 10 people to stand. Within a minute or two, most people behind the original stander in that part of the stadium would be on their feet. Some people would stay standing even if those in front eventually sat down. Seeing that others were standing, some people in other sections would also stand, either in excitement or to stretch. Whenever such reactions followed among many of those on the bottom tier, almost the whole crowd would be standing during much of the event. I began to think about the conditions that caused such reactions. The second example was due in part to obvious self-interest. People had come to the event to see what was going on, interfere with their views, and they would stand up to get a better look, even if more effort was required. The first example was helped by a more subtle kind of self-interest. People enjoy feeling that they're part of an energetic crowd. To gain that feeling, many people will quickly take up chanting, dancing, and shouting slogans that connect them with the crowd. Even some normally reserved people will be seen sheepishly joining in. Experience and habits play roles too. Many people have been in similar situations and they have learned to enjoy the event more by acting in such ways. I began to think about how self-interest combined with experience and habits could be used to stand in for those two table tennis balls on each spring-loaded mousetrap to create a chain reaction by human beings. I observed a much slower but impressive example as a young consultant that stayed with me. Electronic calculators in 1991 cost about $4,000 in today's buying power. Because of the expense and need for training to use them, only a few people in any organization had an electronic calculator. Those who needed to make lots of calculations who were quick with a keyboard. Yet everyone in the consulting firm I worked for spent many hours a day calculating. We mostly did it by hand. The firm had only one computer program we could access on a mainframe, and that program allowed us to do just one sort of calculation. It didn't really save us much time over hand calculations. When I accidentally destroyed this program, no one bothered to replace it. Fortunately, I was good at doing arithmetic in reasonably error-free fashion. I was able to get my work done on time. Some of my colleagues struggled with making errors. Then one day, one of our clients, Texas Instruments, TI, announced one of the first reasonably inexpensive, truly portable semiconductor-based calculators that had multiple functions. The retail price in today's buying power was about $2,000. Our CEO couldn't see spending that much, but he was able to persuade TI to let us buy the calculators for the wholesale price of about $1,000 in today's buying power. Although I noticed that our CEO never offered a wholesale price to TI for our consulting. Not wanting to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars of the firm's money, the CEO came up with an alternative. Clients were going to save a lot of money when we used calculators because we wouldn't have to charge them for as many hours of work. He authorized each of us to buy a calculator for $1,000 by putting the purchases on a company guaranteed credit card, then to charge our clients about $10 an hour for using the calculators. After a month or two, we each had recovered $1,000 and paid off the credit card charge. We weren't allowed to charge clients more than the recovery cost, but we each obtained a calculator, ultimately no cost to us. The quality of our client work went up within 2 months. Client costs went down. It was up to 10 times faster to do complex calculations. Remember that we charge clients by the hour, and we completed the work sooner. Clients liked what we did better, and we sold more consulting studies to existing clients. The firm grew, and those of us in the firm gained promotions and raises more rapidly than before. As clients implemented what we recommended, their customers, employees, suppliers, employees, families, partners, lenders, shareholders, communities, and other stakeholders also benefited. Like throwing a rock in the middle of a pond to start a ripple, the influence of our CEO's decision kept spreading outward. I began to fully realize the full effects only after we started carrying our calculators to client presentations so we could answer more questions on the spot. Many clients had never seen the technology and what it could do. They too began to order calculators for their staffs and to ask more quantitative questions. Understanding of their business decisions rose, and on went the improvements and increased use of calculators. I observed similar ripple effects when more advanced calculators became available. Some of my colleagues were soon walking through plants, spotting ways to improve profits by millions after making just a few calculations. The engineers in the plants who didn't have similar calculators were astonished. The client's engineers, too, soon acquired such calculators and uncovered still more ways to improve. Most people find it hard to generalize what to do from studying just one example. Let me share another example, email. I clearly remember the first time I heard about email. The CFO of a Fortune 500 company described how he could accomplish global projects 100 times faster and at vastly less cost. In addition, he could work on more activities and achieve much more. He didn't even mention how much less expensive email was than air freight and long-distance telephone calls. Why? I suspect it's because the cost reduction was so much less important to him than the increased effectiveness. Let me put the cost dimensions in perspective for you by discussing how email affected Mitchell and Company. We expanded from our headquarters in Cambridge, Massachusetts by opening a second office in California in the early 1980s. Because we had so much information shared between the two offices, we sent a daily air freight package from one office to the other. Today's buying power, the daily cost was about $80. The annual cost was approximately $17,000. Within a year, we put fax machines in both locations and simply sent most of the material that way. The fax machines, long-distance tolls, and telephone line charges cost about $4,000 a year. We were delighted to save so much money, even though it took some time to feed originals into the fax machines. We were also regularly contacting clients and client prospects by regular mail. The annual cost of preparing and sending such materials was in the vicinity of $140,000. With the advent of email, we put in one position for someone just to handle email, and the cost was about $45,000. We began to send most of our material by email rather than regular mail. Within a year, we stopped most of our regular mail shipments and saved over $80,000 a year. Today, we hardly ever send regular mail. We no longer have a person devoted to emails. Our cost to communicate with clients, prospective clients, through emails are probably about $3,000 a year. Yet we communicate with more people than ever. Their costs and hours have declined from where we started by 98%. The only potential losers are the people we used to employ for that work, who in fact didn't like doing the work very much, so they probably don't mind. The post office and our office supplier vendors. But we certainly didn't increase the cost of any of those stakeholders. My personal productivity has risen by several 100% as I more frequently partner with other organizations to do tasks we formerly conducted in-house at much higher cost and with much less effectiveness. We also found that as soon as we switched to email, our access to current potential clients improved. They responded faster, and we found it easier to stay in touch. Their responsiveness indicated it was a chain reaction, 2,000% solution. As another example, it says cost breakthroughs. Let's look next at a product, computers. I'll again put the example in terms of our Mitchell & Company experiences. Prior to the advent of the desktop computer, computing was too expensive for us to use in our consulting practice. Even the smallest mini computers cost over $400,000 in today's dollars, and programming was still more expensive. Time-sharing costs of mainframes were huge, good programmers were hard to find, and received very high compensation. When the first Apple mini computers came out, microcomputers rather, they supported the first inexpensive spreadsheet programs. Having seen the programs, I realized that custom software could be written for consulting applications and Apple computers at less than 2% of the cost of mini computer programs. I also found that programmers with day jobs were often interested in learning how to program microcomputers, so they were willing to work on a moonlight basis after their regular jobs for reasonable rates, and good talent was readily available. I began to sell new types of services, ones that required lots of calculations. Our business boomed, but our costs were tiny, so the profits from this work were enormous. When the IBM personal computers came out, I had an even wider choice of programs, and I was able to sell other new categories of assignments that required programming that clients couldn't easily and quickly do for themselves. With each upgrade in computer processors, the scope of what we could do improved. Calculations used to take hours were done in just a few minutes. Cost came down too. Our first Intel 486 based personal computer cost about $55,000 in today's dollars when new. This computer allowed us to run full-fledged statistics programs for the first time. We were able to buy software reasonably inexpensively, around $4,000 in today's terms. Within 2 years, we could buy better machines that ran faster for only $8,000 in today's dollars. Our costs seem to decline by much more than 96% every time we put in a new computer due to the combination of more functionality and greater speed. In addition, we're able to take on new tasks. Assignments that once took as long as 8 months can now be done in as few as 3 days, and clients would pay a huge premium for such fast results because the increased speed in some cases could save them billions. Life was good. Eventually, we were able to do these assignments so efficiently it became attractive to reduce prices for the work to further expand the market. Let me describe a service I developed to resolve this thinking to show you how a consulting service can create a chain reaction 2,000% solution. Our services for diagnosing what a company should do to improve its stock price cost a client about $2 million in today's buying power. At Peter Drucker's insistence, I developed a low-cost substitute and found a way to use some proprietary calculations to diagnose many of the same opportunities at a cost of only $15,000. The number of our clients for this new service was much larger than for traditional services, so we gained a lot more data about what worked and what didn't. As a result, our quality went up even faster than our costs came down. Because these new assignments could be done very quickly, we also had more frequent and higher impact interactions with clients. They relied on us more and they made better decisions as a result. Let me pull out some themes from the 4 examples: calculators, email, microcomputers, and stock price improvement diagnosis, and pose some questions for you to consider. First, communications costs are rapidly approaching zero. What doors does that open for you? Second, computing costs are also rapidly approaching zero. What can you afford to calculate to do now that you couldn't do before? Third, work can be redesigned to produce high-quality results at vastly lower costs. What can you redesign now that wasn't possible to redesign before? Fourth, customers and other stakeholders are becoming used to do-it-yourself solutions where they participate more in accessing and using information. What new offerings can you provide that depend on such increased ability to perform it and interest in do-it-yourself solutions? Fifth, technology is advancing rapidly and creating cost reduction potential. What cost reductions from technology should you be using but you aren't yet? Six, cost reduction opportunities open up more frequently than before. Are you studying how to develop and to apply new cost reductions often enough? Seven, noticing new cost reduction methods is a critical first step for making large cost reductions. How are you monitoring what can be done? Now let me pose a key question for you. What one change could you make to your business model that will set off a similar set of chain reactions by employing self-interest, experience, and habits that will cut costs for your organization and for all of your stakeholders by 96% or more? Here's the answer I came to for my business: help all my stakeholders learn how to create and to teach others to produce cost-reducing 2000% solutions. What's the key learning from this lesson? Find a 2000% solution that will reduce your costs as well as those of all your stakeholders by 96% through building on what stakeholders already believe in and are excited about doing. They will engage their self-interest and habits in making the necessary changes. So your assignments are threefold. First, what are the themes for creating chain reaction 2000% solutions that you aren't yet applying? Second, how can you quickly become effective in applying such themes? And finally, what kinds of 96% cost reductions can you make that your stakeholders are looking for that will create the most immediate, largest increases in cash flow and profits for them and benefits for others who draw on self-interest, experience, and habits? So I hope this lesson has been a breakthrough in your chain reaction thinking, and I look forward to talking with you again soon as we explore more ways to accomplish this. In the meantime, may God bless you, your family, and all you do in the name of Jesus. Goodbye for now.